So much is made about pirates and storms at sea, but I'll tell you, the most stressful part of routine cruising activities has to do with docking. One little slip, one little moment of inattention, and thousands of dollars of damage can be done. So today, we're going to get back to basics and show you some basic catamaran handling techniques in close quarters. We're going to depart and arrive at a dock with confined space. We're going to deal with winds blowing on and off of a dock. We're going to use more advanced techniques, like pivoting on a spring line in close quarters. And at the end, we're going to do some med mooring. While we're doing the filming, today Rob and Scott from Wright Yachts are going to do the heavy lifting. We'll be demonstrating on this beautiful Seawind 1260, but the same principles apply to all catamarans. And wait around till the end. We've got some general tips that'll help you get through those docking maneuvers.
So I'm going to bring us back into the dock here. I'm going to bring us stern first. This is basically our little parallel parking spot here. And just like you would parallel park, you want to bring your stern in or the back of your car in. No different in reality here. Take your time, no rush. Use your throttles. Your wheel isn't really that useful. I just have a bad habit of touching the wheel, but you really don't even need your wheel at this point.
Looks good.
My goal isn't to actually get us in parallel. Scott's going to help us with the actual bringing in of the bow. You'll see in a moment how that works. Scott will call out distance to me. I can see it from this helm.
3 feet. Okay, I'm on dock.
So I start to put a little throttle in just to keep me off dock while he puts us on cleat.
Okay, you cleated.
Now that I'm cleated, I can literally just push the opposite side into the dock. So I'm going to bring my port engine throttle up, and that will literally bring us up. I'll add a little bit of starboard as well, but now that just brings us in, just easy peasy. We just bring the whole boat in, and now we can just tie up on the bow. We're here, super easy. And bring the stern in, reverse on port, brings the starboard side in, aft. So we're about to get underway from the dock here, from our parallel parking situation. We're in really nice and tight between a couple other catamarans. This is going to be fairly typical if you're at a lot of docks in America where you'll have other cats ahead of you, behind you, or at least beamy boats. So got to find a way to get underway. And today we have wind that is on our port forequarter, so the wind's pushing us into the dock. Right now Scott's gonna move fender to
Swing a set forward from the cleat, rowers in hand.
Yep.
Go ahead and reverse her on port.
So what you're gonna see is he's got a spring line for us aft that's gonna allow me to bring the bow out. So I'm adding a little bit of reverse.
Just a little.
Just a little. And you can see on the bow that we're starting to come out here. Meanwhile, I keep an eye on the boat behind me, make sure that I'm not getting too close to that. So you can see that we're getting close to where I can start to bring the boat out. Just taking my time. And there we are. We're at a point where I can get underway. Scott, you ready to jump aboard?
1 second.
Yep.
Just keep it going. Get the line here. All right, bud, you ready?
Ready to get underway.
Steering cleats off. Let's go underway.
Roger that. So I give it a little forward momentum. Scott jumps on, and we're underway. Easy as that. So what we're going to do here in a moment is we're going to approach a field dock. Very common thing. It's a long linear dock, which is very common. The wind is probably your biggest factor aside from what the space is that you're dealing with. Frankly, that's easier. Use the wind to your advantage. When the wind is fighting you, you obviously have to account for that too. So right now we have a pretty light wind pushing us away from the dock here. So we're approaching the dock right now, and you can see that we have plenty of room at the dock. So it's really a matter of just finding which fuel pump you want and starting to approach. Now what I do is I always approach stern first when I have plenty of room. So yes, I'm bringing my bow in, but the key is really to not approach too close with your bow, because again, what you're going to be doing is you're going to just tie yourself off at the stern. So you can see Scott's starting to tell me what our distance is.
5 feet.
And I am
A little bit more.
Yeah. I brought him to a stop there, just to be conservative.
Okay. And I'm up.
Now he's off, so I'm going to start bringing us forward again.
Completed.
And now I'm just going to bring the bow in. You see how Scott had the line prepped for himself and just hanging off the lifeline there. It's a nice little thing to do. Always think about where you would ideally want your lines. So it just makes it that much easier. So we're docked. All right.
All right. How would we modify this if we were being blown off?
So if we're being blown off, it doesn't really change a whole lot in terms of the docking procedure. You're still going to bring your stern in. The wind, if it's blowing you off, you're just adjusting your amount of throttle. Frankly, where the wind becomes more of a factor is getting underway. Getting underway, then you need to start to adjust your method so that you actually can push either your bow or stern off safely and avoid any contact with the boat directly. So we're at the fuel dock right now, and we're ready to get underway. We just took on tons and tons of fuel. Scott's back at the stern, and he's going to fend off again. He's going to manage our lines. So the wind is pushing us into the dock. So again, this is one of the more challenging things for folks to address. The key here is to clear the dock, most fundamentally, and Scott is going to ensure that our pivot point, which is the stern there, is well protected. So once Scott tells me I'm ready to get underway, we ready?
Ready to go.
All right. Now that we're ready to get underway, we have the wind against us off of our port stern quarter. So I'm going to reverse on port. Scott's going to have a pivot point for me. He's got a fender ready there. Take it really easy, and I listen to Scott. If he gives me any commands, I heed those. I've added a little bit of power on starboard to help with the pivot. How are we doing, Scott?
Good, we're not even using the line.
All right, so I am, now this should be in a typical situation about enough space for me to get underway. You ready, Scott?
Stop.
Yep.
Oh, I lost the rover. There
Okay.
we go. There you go, reverse again. Starboard. Port. There we go.
All right,
Okay.
you ready to get underway?
I think so, we look good.
All right, I'm gonna put it in
Go
neutral, and starboard I'm gonna give us some power. Power on both sides.
Okay, excellent. We are clear.
Roger that. Okay, so now I'm just gonna pivot the boat.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Your pumps will be on video soon. Send me the check for tomorrow. Typical fairway here. Looks somewhat intimidating when you're starting out with multi-hull. Again, the key is just take your time. You're in no rush. I'm going knot and a half. That's plenty of speed. It's not a race.
Pick your spot.
So we have a spot up here
I'll keep an eye
on
out
port.
for it.
So this is fairly common where you'd be coming into a full horseshoe and having it all to yourself. A lot of marinas are set up where they used to put two monohulls into a horseshoe, and it's really, when they try to accommodate cats, they just give you that full horseshoe. So we'll show you how to tie up in this. Scott, I'm going to bring us in stern first.
Right up.
So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pass the slip itself.
There you go. Open this one.
Yep. So I'm going to bring us in a little bit closer to it because I'm going to go in stern first. I actually want to be fairly close. I want to bring my port stern quarter in
Wind's going to be on your stern.
closer initially. See, I'm taking my time. I'm going to start reversing. And it's tight quarters around here, but it's okay. If we hit anything, we're going basically quarter of a knot. Not much is going to happen. Again, that's the key. Move real slow. So the wind's actually going to be trying to push me out of here. That's okay. Use it to your advantage. It's one more thing that's going to keep you from hitting anything fast. So you can see on my bow, got a Corsair that I need to watch out for as well, no problem. Now with a multi-hull, with a catamaran, you can see that I have the ability to use both my throttles again to my advantage. It's like a tank. Bringing it in. And it is pushing me a little bit towards the port side of the boat. That's okay. We got this whole space to ourselves.
3 feet.
Roger that.
Any better?
Yeah, just give it little bits of throttle, go back into neutral, a little bit more throttle. Scott could at any point he could get off if he needed to.
You might have to.
If he had to. But I'm just bringing us all the way back.
Okay, I'm on.
Roger that. So you can start to see how the wind is pushing the bow towards port. Okay. We're going to get underway again. So, wind's coming almost directly from our stern, so this is going to be really easy for us to get underway. Just use the wind to your advantage. Scott's on the dock still to just make sure that if we need a little assistance to make a turn, which we may well need to because it's pretty tight once we get out into the fairway here. So,
Want to pivot?
yeah, let's pivot here. So, Scott's going to do what you would call a pivot maneuver here. This is going to help me because we literally don't have a lot of space off our bow here to make a tight turn. All right, so here we go. I'm going to give throttle on port. And Scott's got us as a pivot point, so...
A little bit on the starboard. There you go. Excellent.
And that helps me make a really tight turn. Easy, that otherwise would be really hard to do. Okay? I'm ready. Anytime you're ready.
Good?
Yeah, I'm ready.
A little bit straighter. Just get her nice and parallel.
Fair enough.
Okay.
There you go.
Go right ahead.
Roger that.
Yep. All that forward.
All that forward. There we go. So, even in a narrow fairway, really easy if you just use leverage, basic physics. This is a little bonus anchoring situation for us all. You don't encounter this a lot in the US, but you will occasionally in the Caribbean, you will occasionally in the Mediterranean. So it's called the med mooring. And basically it requires that you have your boat secured both fore and aft. with the stern brought in to the dock. Right, so first step, I'm gonna have Scott up on deck. He's gonna be the one that deploys the anchor. And he's gonna pay out rode. So I'm gonna tell Scott what our depth is here. We have 24 feet of depth still. So I'm bringing our stern in while Scott's deploying rode. This is a little trick I do every once in a while. I look back while I'm controlling the two throttles. Sort of helps me orient which way I'm going when I actually put some throttle in. So I'm looking back, I want to go towards port. I push the starboard throttle, brings me back more. Oh, it's port.
If you feel a catch.
Yeah, I've got a catch already here.
Okay, good. You're coming out a little bit more. Okay, you got more.
So we're paying out more of our chain here. Now, a lot of times if you were med mooring, you wouldn't be bringing the anchor out necessarily. You'd be catching a mooring ball, would be what your bow would be hanging off of. But for this demonstration, we're going to show you with the anchor. Works the same.
Just give me the only catch.
Oh yeah. So Scott's deployed a couple of fenders to ensure if we do kiss, we're fine.
5 feet.
So he's just giving me signals on how far out we are.
4 feet.
So he's got our starboard side tied off now. Now he's going to tie port stern quarter off. Okay. All right, we're good.
That was gorgeous.
We're actually safely docked, and it's really easy at the end of the day. You make some micro adjustments by bringing in the lines a little bit more to your liking. You can bring in the anchor or your bow line if you're on a mooring to your liking. And again, you don't want the stern to touch. Most of the time you'd have a longeron, passerelle, excuse me, not a longeron. So yeah, this is what you do. And
Stay tuned until the end. We've got a few more tips for you.
We want to give a huge thanks to Rob and Scott from Wright Yachts. We had a lot of fun filming this video with you guys.
And a huge thank you to you for making it this far in the video. And also a great big thank you to our patrons. Thank you for the support.
We really appreciate everybody. Thank you.
I think that for a lot of our clients who are novelist sailors or even just getting into sailing, going into the catamaran market, it is certainly intimidating, but the whole concept of sailing still is in its best form simple. It just requires an understanding for things as simple as terminology and knots, to also how to properly helm about and knowing how to use your equipment properly. And those are steps that can be taught quite quickly through US Sailing or ASA course right off the bat. And migrating over to a catamaran requires just a little bit of a finesse in between those options, especially when it comes to motoring, since it is such a wider boat. Even though for a lot of novelists going into a 38-foot monohull wouldn't seem like the biggest step, A catamaran, in true reality, feels quite a bit easier to start into, being that it has the stability and engines that are separated by so far to allow better maneuverability in tight quarters.
I personally feel that you know, the most important thing to do is find good company, people that you feel are going to respect you, appreciate where you are in your learning process, and not be critical. And if you can find that type of environment that's going to be constructive, it makes all the difference in the world. So, you know, carry good company, you know, interview the people you're going to potentially learn from. There are a lot of people, it may not be an ASA or US sailing course, there are a lot of people that are really good teachers that are out there that are just looking for crew. And if you can find those people and just get on their boat with them, a lot of times they just appreciate an extra hand. You can learn a lot from them, and so it's a win-win for both parties.
Yeah, it could be a win or a lose having the friend who sails being the person that you take instruction from, by the way. So it could be a really good friend, but sometimes even a good sailor, a good person is better to have on board. So just be careful. Bad habits are very common in this learning, yeah, where people will get stuck in their ways or the way that they've always done it. And with
not us. What are you talking about?
Yeah, bad habits.
Megan's over there scowling. Do we have any bad habits, honey?
I think so.
But
so there's a right way to do everything? Is that what you're saying?
I think there's a right way for everyone to do something, but for everyone it may be a little bit different. I mean, there are some easier ways of doing things, and there's some harder ways of doing that. But if it makes you happier doing it the harder way, then I think you should go ahead and do it that way.
That's the key to our happiness.
Yeah.
All right, so when it comes to the docking stuff, what are some general tips, hints, all that sort of thing? Go slow. I mean, that's something that we learned right off the bat, because I was just hauling butt through these marinas because I thought I had better control.
Yeah.
You know, one that I think is often overlooked is if you're in a situation where it's going to be really challenging, no matter how much time you take, no matter how much prep you make for yourself, don't be afraid to call the dock and actually ask for help. If you see somebody on the dock, you know, give them good instruction. Make sure that they understand what you want them to do, or call literally the harbor master's office and ask if they can send somebody down. Most harbor masters are all too happy to do that. They don't want you to crash into their dock. But you know,
True story. I've been calling on 6-8 more than a couple times in windy conditions if it was going to be really challenging. And I'd say, I've only done this once before. Can you help me?
good plan. Yep. And they'll come running down.
They don't want to see a docking disaster.
So if you know, a lot of these marinas, they have dedicated hands at the better ones that just toss them a bone, throw them a couple of bucks, and they'll help you. Don't be afraid to get help. You know, that's until you get more comfortable. That's actually a great way to approach things, is to call in advance, request some assistance. Don't feel guilty about that. You'll become an expert over time, but in the early days, asking for help is actually a great thing to do. And watch more videos on best practices.
The O'Kelly channel.
Yes, O'Kelly's.
No, it's true. Like, these videos can be so helpful and so informative.
They can.
Watch somebody do something like 5 times over, and you're like, oh, I get it now.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's two really big positions when you're doing this. I mean, first off, you have the gentleman who's going to be, or the lady who's going to be taking care of the throttle or the helm. But also, just as important is going to be the dock hand, being able to run the rover or the loose fender, make sure that your lines have the proper amount of slack, and also the communication, the eyes over at the waterline. And that is equally a very important position for both people to do their job properly. There has to be a lot of communication between back and forth. So the pivot routine is one of our personal favorites because it allows us to literally slowly bring the boat off the dock and then just both engines full ahead and just be underway. Without having to push or move around or try to move forward, and the big stern of the boat, since these boats are so darn wide, having the possibility of swinging into the dock.
I think that is an area that's probably one of the bigger challenges for people otherwise that are coming from a monohull. They're used to the taper of their stern.
That's right.
Helping them and getting away from the dock as they're pulling away, even when the wind's pushing them in. They have that advantage. So they're shocked when they discover that the beam on these boats means that exercise is no longer that simple if they don't know that trick.
That whole tail still has to come around. You have your engine set up.
That trick is indispensable. It really is. You have to learn that one tactic, and if you can do that, it's all easy again. It really
I would
is.
say most of the time we pivot off the stern, like you guys have been doing.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, though, we will pivot off the bow.
Off the bow, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the same principles apply. Really no different. It's just doing it from the bow instead. So.
Is there any particular advantage to one or the other?
I think the advantage is just being able to step onto the boat. While at the stern, or if you're doing it at the bow, you're probably going to have the line running back over to you and around the horn. So that's going to require a maneuver of being able to remove that line from the horn and pray that you don't have a snag on the way while you're trying to back up the boat.
Yeah.
So I've had that. I think we've all had that. And also another always big key of advice that I try to always let our Seawind owners and other catamaran owners, or boat owners in general, is whoever is stepping off the boat, never step off the boat empty-handed. Always bring a line with you. So that's absolutely crucial.
Yeah. But no, we enjoyed actually being able to show you and your audience today a few of our tips and what we do and how we do it. And yeah, I hope hopefully it helps a person or two out there. I'm sure it will. But if anybody is looking for other tips, they're welcome to reach out to you guys or to us directly. We'd love to help people.
Sure. Come on.
Cool.